Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be pretty exciting. Inside this package is an iPhone 6s or 6s Plus. Can't quite remember the details on that, but it's supposed to be running iOS 9, which, as I'm sure most of you know, iOS 9 devices on the Apple A9 chip are incredibly hard to find. There's a really long story for that. If someone's bored and wants to leave that story down in the comments below, that might help a few people out. But this device, I don't know if I'm going to say who I received it from. It was not a purchase of mine. Rather, it was a transaction or a trade. Gave him one of my devices and he sent me this. If he consents to me sharing who it is, I will leave that name or username or whatever right there on the screen for you guys to see. But if not, we're just going to continue with the video. So let's get this thing opened up, see what kind of condition it's in, and then talk about our iPhone on iOS 9. Okay, here's our iPhone, and before we talk about that, props to the seller for packaging it really well. It was very nicely packaged and very secure in shipping. Here's our device. This is an iPhone 6s Plus. Obviously, it's got the S on the back there, and I can tell it's a 6s Plus, but to prove it to you guys, we do have 8 speaker grills there on the bottom. The 6 and 6s only have, I believe, 6 holes there for the speaker. But this is obviously the white model. The iPhone 6s shipped in space gray, silver, and white, which is what this is, as well as gold and rose gold. We've got a gold color there on this iPhone SE, and we have rose gold here on the iPhone 7 Plus. So enough talk. Let's get our iPhone 6s Plus powered on and see which version of iOS we have and talk a little bit about this device. So as that boots up, I'm going to go ahead and connect it to power just so we have enough juice to get through the video. All right, and it's already ready to go. That was super fast. I remember when this phone came out, it booted so quickly. This phone was way ahead of its time. The 6S and the 6S Plus were incredibly fast back in, I believe, 2015 was when this iPhone came out. So this appears to be iOS 9. We've got the iOS 9 wallpaper, and there are some other cues that kind of give that away. But just to be sure, we're going to head into Settings, General, and About. There you go, iOS 9.1, so one of the really early versions of iOS 9. This is a 16 gigabyte model, and that is okay. The iPhone 6s came in 16, 64, and 128 gigabytes. There was actually a 32 gig model that launched later on. I think when the iPhone 7 came out, they kept 32 and 128 for the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. So if you're trying to find one on iOS 9, don't get a 32 gig model. I don't think those ever shipped with iOS 9. But let's talk a little bit about this device. The 6s introduced a lot of new things for the iPhone lineup. Was the first phone to feature an increase in camera megapixels since the iPhone 4S back in 2011. We got an upgrade to 12 megapixels, which is good for taking 4K video, another first for the iPhone series. So if we head down into photos and camera, record video, we can do 1080p at 60 FPS. That was introduced in the iPhone 6, and 4K 30. So to show off this phone's camera, I'm going to do 1080 60 only because the video is being recorded at 4K 60. So if I do 4K 30, Final Cut Pro is going to add extra frames in there, and I don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do, we're going to shoot a 1080p 60 video. You can see we've got 60 FPS there in the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and start that, and we're going to transition over into the iPhone 6s Plus. And here we are. Obviously, that's the main setup. We can pause that for now. I do use a microphone, and there's no microphone here on the 6s, so you're getting the raw audio and image quality from this device. Down here, we've got a Samsung SSD. It's a 2 terabyte model. And over here, like we saw before, we've got an iPhone SE. This is in the regular gold color. We have an iPhone 7 Plus in the space gray. None of these are special. They are running their latest firmwares respectively. All right, so let's see if we go over to the light here. You can kind of get a feel for the dynamic range and the contrast differences here on that device. I think the quality is really good. I remember when this iPhone came out, the quality was awesome. We'll go ahead and switch back here to our main recording device. And there you have it. That's been a quick look there at the video quality as well as the audio quality from the microphones. So the iPhone 6s also brought some other new and interesting things. This was the first time an iPhone had 2 gigabytes of RAM. So starting with the iPhone 5 through the 5S and then the 6, iPhones had a single gig of RAM. The 6S would bump that up to 2 gigabytes, which was a huge performance gain for this device. Really helped the fluidity and the multitasking, especially on iOS 9. Even an iPhone 6 and a 5S are sometimes pretty stuttery on iOS 9. And of course, the 2 gigs of RAM help, and so does the dual-core A9 processor. This was Apple's last dual-core processor, and it's so quick and so smooth. We cannot miss the 3D touch feature here, or actually I think it's called Force Touch, which was introduced on the 6S, where you can physically push harder on things, and the screen actually knows how hard you're pressing compared to just how long you're holding on the display compared to the new models. So this feature was removed, I think, with the iPhone 11. So the iPhone XS was the last phone to feature 3D or Force Touch. This was also the first iPhone to feature that haptic engine. So up until this point, the vibration motors were really loud on phones. So if I take this iPhone SE, for example, which has the iPhone 5 and 5S vibration, listen to the sound that this makes. So you can hear that, but if we do the same thing here on the iPhone 6S, oh, you actually can. This one's actually a bit loose, but I bet if I apply pressure down here, no, maybe down here. Oh, there. If I hold it upside down and click it, then you really can't hear the vibration, but that's actually a common thing I've seen with older 6S and 6S Plus is the vibration motor, or the haptic engine as Apple calls it, becomes a little bit loose inside of the device. And instead of providing that clear, crisp vibration that you can't hear but you can feel, all of a sudden you can actually begin to hear some other things vibrating around, causing that same sound that you're hearing there. So it was Apple's first attempt with the haptic engine, and it's become huge in all of their products. And I think even the new Apple Pencil Pro has a haptic engine inside of that, which is super nice. I can't afford the new iPad, but it would be really cool to be able to experience that. This was the last iPhone, the last flagship iPhone, to be sold with a headphone jack. So 6S and 6S Plus are the final iPhones to feature that headphone jack down there at the bottom. Also the last flagship phone to feature a single camera. So obviously when the iPhone 7 Plus comes out next year, then you get a dual camera setup there. Also the last iPhone to feature a physical home button that actually clicks instead of just being a like a haptic feedback there on the iPhone 7. So there were a lot of firsts on this phone, and there were also a lot of lasts. So this was kind of a big transition phone for Apple. A lot of things were really great about this phone. It fixed the bend gate issue that was present in the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, increased the megapixel count there on the camera, huge performance gains with the dual-core A9 processor paired with 2 gigs of RAM, much faster graphics, and also much faster storage. So we don't think about the storage on our phones that much other than just a number. But it is also an SSD the same way you would find in a computer. And a lot of times it's overlooked, but SSD speeds matter. And for the first time, Apple really upped the game there with solid state drive inside of their iPhone 6S. And that makes things like booting the phone, launching applications be super quick and super fast. This was a very well performing phone, and it would go on to get updates from iOS 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 7 years of updates. I think that ties the record for the most updates ever in an iPhone. So this phone had quite a good history, and it was a really, really good selling product. Apple sold this for a long time, and a lot of people have this. I don't know where this ranks on the list of most popular iPhones ever, but it's got to be up there towards the top. All right, I think that's going to do it for this video. Oh, wait, before we go, we got to check out those wallpapers. iOS 9 wallpapers, we don't get to see them that often, especially not on their original device. So they're the original live wallpapers. So these are the ones where if you 3D touch on the display, they actually move. So if we go like that, you can see the fish kind of swims away from the camera as I push down on the display, and you can kind of go back and forth depending on how much pressure you apply. So pretty cool, and that actually looks very nice with the white background on the white bezels of our silver iPhone 6s Plus. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this look here at an iPhone 6s Plus. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous device, incredibly difficult to find, and it is really nice to add this to my collection. All right, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.